Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at the Sun in Sagittarius making a trine to Mars in Leo. This happens just prior to Mars turning retrograde in the sign of Leo, so it is a really good time to stop and think about the Mars-Sun combination from an archetypal standpoint and to reflect on some of the unique spiritual insights or lessons that may be available to us as Mars turns retrograde in Leo at the beginning of December and then goes on through that retrograde through the rest of December. Before dipping back into Cancer. So we've got a significant portion of the retrograde that is focused on this sign of Leo. And because the Sun is the ruler of Leo and is connecting with Mars in Leo right now, it makes for a really special moment to reflect on this combination. So that's what we're doing today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. Share your comments and reflections if you've got them. Of course, you can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. Now, of course, you guys know right now we're in the midst of our annual Kickstarter campaign where for the last 40 days or so of the calendar year, we try to rally support from all of our viewers to support the production of the free content that you get on this channel year round in 2025. So if you go to the Kickstarter link, which is in the description of this video, in the comments section of this video, or you can find it on the website, nightlightastrology.com. There's a link that says 2025 Kickstarter, and you head on over to the Kickstarter page. You are going to see that here you'll see up here, there's a back this project little tab, and then you're going to scroll down. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see that for your donation at different tiers, there are different rewards. We have the Astrology of 2025 talk, which I am not giving anywhere else. That's available when you donate, or my new book being released in audiobook, chapter by chapter, as well as text form. That will continue to be released in the new year. And we have a year ahead horoscope reading you can pick up where you get about 30 to 45 minutes on each sign of the zodiac and the major astrological transits for the entirety of 2025. This is the only place I do year ahead horoscope readings. You can pick up all 12 of those when you donate there. And then we have a lot of other things available. If you stick around after today's talk, there is a little video that I have tagged on to the end explaining all of the rewards that we offer. Of course, our best deals include massive discounts on all of our online training programs and certification courses, masterclass series, all that good stuff. And when you bundle programs together, you save even more. So if you stick around after today's talk, you can hear more about all the donation, all the reward tiers that exist when you donate, so you can check those out. Every day, I've been trying to do something to share what I think is valuable about this channel in the hopes that people will donate and support us again this year. We are trying to get to 1,937 backers by January 1st. We're off to a really good start in the first week. We did a fantastic job of setting a good pace. But we need a lot of help to get there still. And what I like to do is tell you why I think the channel is valuable and why you might consider donating. I've been talking about different things that I try to include in the kind of cooking process of my daily content. And I want to talk now about something that I call multivalence. Multivalence is an astrological word that maybe you've heard before, but it's basically the idea that an archetype is like a jewel. And depending on which angle you turn the jewel at and which angle the light bounces off from, you will see different things. And there will be different facets of the archetype, different images, metaphors, different lessons and insights, different patterns. And the point of my astrological work is to give people a multivalent perspective on the aspects forming in the sky day by day, week by week, year round, rain, sun, or snow. I show up and my work is to sit down and tell you if it's Mars retrograde, or if it's Pluto into Aquarius, or whatever the case may be, that we want to present the material for all of you in a way that gives you the multidimensional and multivalent sense of the different possibilities that are contained within astrological configurations. The reason that I think it's important to do this is because I believe that inherently, because archetypes are flexible, that people are all experiencing them in very different ways. So something you'll get on this channel is coverage that is truly diverse in the sense of archetypal multivalence. Every day, I make sure to create content, sometimes 2 or 3 videos on the same transit We've done a few on Mars retrograde in Leo already, where the point is to give you yet another different way of looking at astrological patterning. And I believe that for students who are listening is valuable because it aids in your education. And for people who are listening just for the relevance of connection to your personal life, that is giving you something to work with that allows you to see the presentation of the archetypes in many different ways. Knowing that there are different possibilities out there, it allows you to see the manifestations with an open mind and identify them more readily. So I bake multivalence into every meal that I cook here. So I hope that you all appreciate knowing that going forward, and maybe consider pitching in. Again, you can find the link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, in the comment section, or on the website, nightlightastrology.com. Okay, so let's take a look at this trine that's forming between Mars and the Sun, which I do feel is a really unique and powerful moment for us to consider here. All right, here we go. So I'm going to place the chart on the screen. All right, so here we can see that as the week begins on Monday, November 25th, that the two planets are in a trine to one another almost perfectly already. So here today, as we're watching this video on Tuesday, November 26th, the trine is perfecting. That trine perfecting is really interesting because Mars is in the Sun's sign. And the Sun is trine to Mars, which means we have a form of planetary reception. This basically means that when a planet is not in its own home sign, it becomes dependent upon its host. So when Mars is in Leo, not its own sign, it becomes dependent on its host, which is the Sun. Now it is connecting with the Sun in a trine. Trines are of the nature of Jupiter, very benefic, generally speaking, a good fluid flowing kind of helpful connection. All the more so because Mars is connecting with the Sun, who is its host. So you can imagine if you're staying someplace, let's say you're staying at a bed and breakfast somewhere and you're traveling, you're not in a place that is known to you, and you're in a bed and breakfast that is owned by, a host. Having that host available, helpful, cheerful, able to help you with your travel plans, make sure that you have everything you need, especially maybe if you don't speak the language, you can imagine how beneficial it might be to have a connection with a host like that, as opposed to being at an Airbnb somewhere or a bed and breakfast somewhere in some other country, perhaps while traveling, and the host is absent. The host is not helpful. The host does not like you. The host is antagonistic, right? So this is the same way that ancient astrologers were really thinking about planet to planet connections through aspects. Do they have reception between one another, or are they just strangers bumping into one another on the road? Well, in this case, Mars is in the temple of the Sun, and it is connecting in a trine to the Sun. That makes the connection a very powerful one. So before I go into some of the deeper lessons that I want to talk about today with Mars's retrograde in Leo, I just want to mention that this trine in and of itself has some very powerful, very useful signatures that come with it. Again, in the spirit of multivalence, let's describe several of them. So one of the major things we can say about the Sun and Mars working together harmoniously in fire signs is that it has that attitude of where there is a will, there is a way. These planets are charismatic. They are fiery. They are here to empower one another. Mars is like the right arm of the Sun, insofar as the Sun is like a ruling principle, but we need the will, or we need the strength, or we may need the decisiveness or the decision-making or the conviction to actually do something in line with what we know to be ideal. Oh, I think this is ideal, or I think that is ideal. Well, great. Are you going to act on it? That's a Mars-Sun dynamic. So one thing that comes when they're trying to one another and there's reception between one another is we have both a way, an ideal, an image, a desire, an ambition, and we have the will. Where there is a way, there is the will, or where there is a will, there is a way. And so these two planets have the power through charisma and action and executive, bold decision-making and confidence and moxie to go and do something that they feel strongly about. Now, that's going to present in our own lives in terms of ambition and conviction, willpower, determination, and charisma, that kind of thing. Now, the two planets together could potentially, kind of bowl people over. They could become a little bit steamrolling or bulldozing in their effectiveness. So there's also confidence and moxie and swagger teetering into arrogance, domination, and bullying. Those would all be on the spectrum of this kind of transit. Where we need some degree of conviction and confidence and joy and optimism in order to get something done, a wonderful combination. The sun in Jupiter's uplifting fire sign, with Mars having the conviction and generosity of spirit in the sign of the lion. These two planets together really do like to be, sort of happily, strongly, confidently saying and doing things, getting things done, or speaking their mind and truth and heart with a lot of passion. These two planets also speak to, this is an important little, subtle little dynamic, but one that's important to point out. Mars is in the superior trine to the sun from the sun's sign. This means that Mars is exerting a kind of pressure on the sun. That can mean that this connection is a little bit more Marsy than it is solar. The reason for this is that ancient astrologers had ways of classifying aspects that were either superior or inferior. This is something we study in my programs. The combination here would suggest that you have something like a demanding house guest. Because Mars is in the sun's sign and in a superior trine to the sun, it is exacting support from the sun with a little bit of a martial demand. This could mean, for example, that let's say that you had the relation. I'm just using like a kind of a political, kind of ancient political image. Let's say you have the leader of the military and the king or the ruler or the empress or whatever. And they're the leader and the head of the military. The head of military would be Mars. Mars goes up to the empress and says, Empress, there's no way that I can get this or that done unless you give me this, unless you let me do this, unless I can go and have this or that or do this or that, I will not be able to get my job done. And of course, what the head of the army is asking for may be a little bit of a demand. The king, the queen may feel like, boy, that's a lot, And the reason that we depict it this way is because the superior position can be seen as a planet sort of placing a pressure on the planet it is in the superior relationship with. So that's just a really stupid, simple image to play with, right? And I'm not like someone who loves thinking about things like kings and military, but with the king as one of the most obvious symbols of the sun and the military as one of the most obvious symbols of Mars, I think it gets the job done. Because the other way you could think about it is that you have something like, I can do something, I can accomplish something, but here's what I'm going to need from you in order to do it, right? Another way of thinking about this might be if let's just say in a household, let's imagine the son is the money manager, and whoever that is, and let's say it's a marriage and you got one person who tends to manage the money. Mars might be the person saying, look, I can get this thing done in the house that you want me to get done, but you're going to have to give me the money to do it because I can't do it without this or that supply, or I need to hire this contractor or whatever. So there is something here in this aspect very specifically that might have to do with saying, look, here's what I need for this to work. There's going to be some kind of compromise, or in order for me to do what you want, you're going to have to give me something that I need. Something like that might be taking place where there's almost like a sense of demand or pressure being placed, but it feels pretty harmonious and like something that should work out, or a leveraging of resources or will or power or strength that should be effective and like doable. It's not like anyone is having to break their back in the process here. The other thing that I find interesting about this is, as the trine is coming through this week, we have, for a major stretch of this trine connection, the moon in Libra, which is a place of balance and of equality and of negotiation. Venus, as the ruler of Libra, is this sign is very diplomatic, is what I'm trying to say. And the idea that the moon is reflecting some process of balance or negotiation seems important when we also see Mars and the sun coming together, resourcing one another, but Mars perhaps placing a little bit of a pressure on the sun. But can we work out something that's equitable, that feels fair? I think so. I think there's something about this that we can get the job done. The moon will also have, today is running through a square to Venus, just a tiny little detail here, and with reception to Venus, right? So the moon in Venus's sign squaring Venus, it's like, again, there's something being worked out, a resource, a kind of harmony that's trying to be reached on this day that may come as a result of some of the kind of demanding, intense energy of this fiery connection between Mars and the sun. All right, so those are some ways of thinking about Mars and the sun today. However, what I really want to work with today is the upcoming retrograde, because here's what happens. Anytime the sun trines a superior planet, that means a planet that moves more slowly than the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn in particular. A little different when you get to the outer planets. But here we have a pattern. After the two trine, watch what happens to Mars. After the trine has separated, we're going to see that the next thing that occurs is that Mars will turn retrograde. See, it stations and it retrogrades about 10, 11 days after the trine. Now, don't believe me? Let's watch this again. Let's take this. I'm sure you do, but okay, so let's roll this forward and let's watch what happens. Now, Mars is retrograde back into Cancer by this point, but watch what happens once the sun comes into the range of the whole sign trine to Mars. It's always in the range of a trine, degree-based, whole sign usually, but it's either real close to a degree-based trine or it's real close to the whole sign trining. So notice Mars is stationing around February 23rd as the sun is now approaching the trine. So if we roll this forward another few days, we'll see that Mars stations and Mars is direct. And then as Mars is barely picking up motion at that 17th degree, there's the trine. Let's see, the sun trining Mars at the 17th degree, the degree that it's stationed at. And so you can set your clock to it, right? You can track this out. If we do this in the opposite direction, watch, you'll see it again. Let's take Mars, continue to take Mars and the sun forward together. We're going to see that they go through their synodic cycle and reach their conjunction point. And the sun will, because the sun moves faster, the sun will conjoin Mars at the 19th degree of Capricorn in about January of 2026. Now, if we keep taking it forward, the retrograde will happen once the sun hits the trine to Mars. So that's going to take a while to get to, right? So here we go. We're speeding this up a little bit. Now, here we go. See, now this is December 25th, 2026. Look at, there's the two about to trine one another. Take this forward a week. They've just trined. Take it forward another week. Mars is now stationing. See that? And retrograde. So that's a little trick you can use between the sun's trines to Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn. The cycles all work in the same way like that. Anyway, bringing this back to our conversation for today, the reason that I'm pointing this out is because that Mars Sun trine right now is positioning us for the retrograde. And this passage of the two planets is important. Let me go back and share with you an idea that I've worked with and have found it to be an effective one in the past. So here's the two planets just separating from the trine. Isn't it interesting that the retrogradation happens after the trine and the turn direct happens after the trine? Why might that be? One idea is that when it comes to the superior planets, that they are all working in some ways, as all planets are, in synodic cycles with the sun. And the sun was really seen as one of the central principles and symbols of the entire system of astrology. That is because the sun was associated with that which is illuminating or enlightened. It was associated with that which is divine and of a higher nature of truth, like the archetypes themselves being like thoughts in the mind of the universe or of God. And so the sun in many ways is always telling us what the ideal image is that is shaping the rest of the story. And all planets exist in relation to an ideal image. They all circle around the sun. So when a planet like the sun contacts Mars in a trine and then Mars changes directions, the way that I like to look at that personally, and it could be just a creative metaphor that I've come up with, maybe there's something to it. But the way I like to look at it is that that trine means that the sun is imparting a new kind of image, a new kind of ambition, a new kind of ideal, a new kind of, let's just call it an image. And as soon as it imparts that image, we see the planet, in this case Mars, slow down, station, and retrograde as if it needs time to now reorient, revise, redo, reconsider, make some kind of important shift so that the new image can be enacted according to the archetype of the planet. So in other words, it's as though Mars is being given a new image for itself, a new image for what Mars means: strength, will, maybe broadly speaking, the metaphysical masculine, power, confidence, assertiveness, work and perseverance, courage, a sense of individuality and independence, autonomy and strength. That what this looks like for us psychologically, or how these principles play out with respect to the topics of the house they are located in our birth chart when they turn retrograde, whatever way you want to put it, it is as though the trine provides Mars with a new image. And now the retrograde commences. Now, when the second trine happens, it is as though that new image is coming back around. And once again, the direct motion will take place, so that it's as though the planets, through their synodic cycles with the sun, are getting this constant sense of refreshment and new ideals, new ideas, new archetypal patternings are being imprinted upon them through their synodic cycles. And in the case of Mars turning direct, it receives another imprint from the sun, and then voila, changes direction and starts moving forward again. That's really fascinating, because one thing that you could do is to then study the kind of dichotomy, like in this chart, for example, you could study the dichotomy between the way that the 8th house sun in transit is inflecting itself on Mars's retrograde in the 4th, whereas eventually it'll be the 11th house sun in Pisces inflecting itself upon the retrograde Mars in Cancer that shifts it to its direct movement. That would mean that the changes being inflected upon Mars are coming from 8 and 11. Now, I know that's complex, but I will tell you that tracking this for me has been very fruitful. And so, kind of high level and somewhat abstract, but the patterning is incredible if you take time to study it in your own chart. Take time to study where the trine happens before the retrograde, connect it to the meaning of the retrograde, look at the trine and where it's happening when the retrograde is finishing and turning direct again, and you will see really beautiful connections that create a deeper story arc with a little bit more nuance and depth than just focusing on the house of Mars alone. It is as though the sun is inflecting itself on the story of Mars, in other words. So I wanted to give you guys that for something, something you could do, something you could play with if you want to. If that's kind of too high level and feels like, yeah, dude, that's just out there, then let's turn our attention to 5 divine lessons that I believe come from right now, the Mars connecting to the sun, but also the general archetypal combination of Mars turning retrograde in the sign of the sun, which we will be experiencing between now and the end of the year. Eventually in the spring, when Mars goes direct through Leo, again, we may revisit some of these, right? Especially since Mars will also hit Pluto in a retrograde coming up here in Leo, and then in direct motion in the spring. By the way, let me show you guys this. This is my Grateful Dead mug. It is one of my most prized possessions. I got it on Shakedown Street in Las Vegas when we went to the Sphere to see Dead and Company, which was absolutely incredible. My wife and I got these from like a vendor who makes them by hand. And yeah, I became a deadhead. Oh my God. Okay, anyway, sorry. So 5 lessons. 5 lessons, divine lessons, not just any lessons. They're spiritual. And they really have to do with some of the astronomy of Leo. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to use my astronomy program because I think it will really drive the point home in a really beautiful way. So let me just get this going. It's going to take a minute. It's like starting a lawnmower, this astronomy program. People who build these programs are like, someone should have to have a computer just for this program. Okay, let me see. Okay, so let me get it going here. Okay, good, I've got it. Welcome to Starry Night Pro. Now, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to hide the daylight so that it looks like it's nighttime, even though the sun's out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the labels of the planets and moons, and then we're going to put in the ecliptic, which is the zodiac, and then we're going to put in some constellations. How about the zodiac constellations? And remember, we're using a tropical zodiac, so they don't align with the measurements of the zodiac that we use for the signs. That is a conversation that we have at length in my classes. Meridian line. Let's get it all going. Oh, you know what we need? We need some boundary labels here. Constellations. How about some labels? There we go. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to take you back to Leo season. We'll just say it starts around July 20th. It's rough. July 21st, something like that. Okay. We are going super slow here. Let's see. Can I go back by month? Let's go back by month. And there we go. Now we're talking. Okay. All right, so we're going to take it up to about, I'm going to show you some of the astronomy of Leo. All right, so this is right about here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the sun back into our perspective. Bear with me, it'll be worth it, don't you worry. Okay, hold on. Oh, look at that. So we have to let's zoom out a little bit. So there we go, okay. Now here we go. So here is, basically, we're dealing with the sun in Leo. And what I'm doing is I'm artificially making it look like nighttime during high noon. So anyhow, here's what I want you to notice. I want you to notice the general path that the sun is taking. And let's put in the celestial equator. Let's put in the celestial equator here too. So there's the celestial equator. When the sun crosses that line, going downward, it's the fall equinox. Let me just show you this. So that line there, that little intersection point, when the sun, its daily path, when it is crossing that line, that's the fall equinox. Now look at what's happening during Leo. What I want you to pay attention to is that the arc of the sun is heading down toward the celestial equator during Leo season, one day at a time. See how it's coming down that line? We're going to go all the way till about August 21st, right? See how it's come down? So it's an interesting thing that not many of us ever learn or are taught. But one of the key features of Leo is that it is the place while it's during the middle of summer. The summer season is defined from Cancer onward as the gradual setting of the sun in the solar year. The rising of the sun commences at Capricorn. It rises up through Aquarius and Pisces until the light takes over, and there's more light in a 24-hour period than darkness, starting at Aries. This is from the Northern Hemisphere's symbolic perspective, of course. From that time, all the way up Aries, all the way through Cancer, the sun is rising up along that meridian line day by day. At high noon, it's getting higher, closer to the pole star, and rising up to its maximum height. Now, from Cancer through Leo through Virgo, the sun is descending. If I take this through Virgo, right, just one day at a time, we'll go all the way up till about September 22nd, right around the fall equinox, and see right there how the sun is crossing that celestial equator. That's a projection of the Earth's equator out into space. Crossing that line means we're heading into the dark part of the solar year, where there will be more darkness in the 24-hour period than light. That's called the fall equinox or the autumnal equinox, again, from the Northern Hemisphere. That would be the beginning of Libra from our tropical zodiac standpoint. Now, the reason I'm doing all of this is because it really, really helps us, if we want to understand Leo, to understand what's happening while the sun is in Leo. What's happening is steadily the sun is setting. From its high point, it is descending toward the underworld. All right, so just to really kind of drive home that beautiful image, Because understanding Leo has everything to do with understanding that this sign embodies the death of the light. And in the face of the death of the light, we become tremendously concerned in the sign of Leo with that which does not die, that which lives on. The sun, although it will die, will rise again. Right? This is the basic truth of the sun. So although the immortal, eternal soul, which is thought to be in the image of the divine, and the sun was that image, remember that higher divine principle of the sun, the soul, like the sun, does not die. It descends into death, but rises again through transmigration. It is an eternal being moving through mortal bodies. Just like the sun is an eternal being cycling through the mortal world, which involves the contrast of light and dark, day and night, but the sun will rise again. The sun is this eternal principle in astrology. So why isn't it fascinating then that we place the sun's sign during one of the most steady and consistent descending moments of the year? The light is most steadily, consistently descending toward darkness in the sign of Leo. The turning point happens in Cancer, like, oh, now we're starting to slowly descend. But it's a subtle turning point. Just like Capricorn is like, well, not everyone looks around at the winter solstice and goes, oh, look, the light's returning, right? It's a very gradual turn. Once you get to Aquarius, right, now we're starting to see the light is rising. We're coming through winter and starting to rise out of winter. That's the process of rising out of winter. In summer, we're setting into the death of the underworld. So the sign of Leo has so much to do, like the sun itself, with that which lives on despite the descent. The king is dead, long live the king. The king will die, but the crown and the position of the monarch will live on through succession. You or I, take away the metaphor of monarchy if you don't like monarchy, because I'm not a huge fan of all of that either, but take it as a metaphor, take it as an image. You will live on through what? Through your calling, through your legacy, through what you contributed to the world. See, we live with solar mythology all of the time. The hero's quest, what is it? A descent and a return, right? So the idea that we live with an individual sense of destiny that is bigger than our individual mortal lives, that we are living for something bigger, even if we just conceptualize this life as part of an ongoing spiritual enlightenment process, then despite our mortality, we are here to live for something more than just this lifetime. We're living for a spiritual evolutionary process, or we're living to contribute something to the world, or we're living to overcome the faults of our ancestors and to pass on something better to our kids. And they're here to shine on beyond our limits, right? So the point is, this concern with legacy and for immortality and for that which lives on despite the dying of the light is of central concern to Leo, which is why we also constantly see the challenges or shadows of Leo as that which gives rise to a temporary but false sense of eternality. If I have a lot of money, if I have a lot of power, if I have a lot of fame, if I'm high up on a hierarchy somewhere, then I have this false sense of having risen to something more important. But what am I measuring it against? I'm more important than you. Ego, right? That's what we're talking about as the shadow of Leo. I'm more important. I'm more special. My legacy is better than yours. All like that. And so often, part of the stench, right, of the new age that people can't stand is that feeling that we're just, we're kind of like playing with our own poop. That the new age is like nothing but, a way of pumping ourselves up to make ourselves feel like we are more special and important than other people. Every workshop is about finding your power, finding your voice, finding your calling, finding your specialness, standing up for yourself, all of this. There's a real way in which we are here to find a sense of transcendence, of transcendental purpose and meaning in the living of a life. But there's real gold and there's fool's gold. And there's a process of having to discern between the two that is very much at the heart of the lion. We could say a lot more, right? But there are some lessons that come up when Mars, the god of will and power and strength and confidence, of facing fears and of courage, but also of violence and warfare and division and separation and cutting. When that god is in the sun sign, we have some very important things to consider. There is a hexagram in the I Ching that I really love, and it says, and I cannot believe I'm spacing on which number it is. I knew I would do that. Okay. Anyway, one of the texts reads, "Be like the sun at midday, do not lament the descent." And the hexagram basically talks about what a kind of, people, for example, frequently think, what a great placement, the sun in the 10th house. Oh my God, what a great placement. What we forget is that the sun in the 10th house has only one place to go in terms of the diurnal motion, and that is down. So one thing we don't think about is how difficult it is for people with 10th house suns to bear the responsibilities that come with being at the top of something, right? That can weigh you down. I think there are other ways of thinking about the 10th house here, but the point that I'm trying to get at is that in this I Ching hexagram, it's really the point is, be careful of what you aspire to and how attached you get to images of loftiness, your reputation, your fame, your notoriety, your calling, your success, your self-worth, because there is a natural way in which whatever goes to a highest point will drop down, will come back down. And I remember I was watching this documentary, and it was about mountain climbers, and it was about mountain climbers who had gone to Everest. And what I will never forget was a climber that said, when was it a woman? I think it was a woman. When she said when she made it to the top, that she was so exhilarated, that she had gotten there. That she's like, holy cow, I got here. And then it hit her after they said, okay, you've got like 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is to hang out here at the top of the world. And then you have to go down. You have to go down now, because you only have so much oxygen left. You only have so much time. Your body can only handle the altitude, whatever it was, right? All these conditions. And she said, what I didn't think about was how difficult the descent would be. I thought the hard part was going to be getting up. But for this particular climber, and I'm sure it's different for every climber or whatever, but for her, it was this, she felt like she had achieved everything. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but you have work to do. And the work is in how you descend. So if we only aim high, but don't know how to come back and descend, we're in trouble. If we only know the taste of victory and confidence and boldness and self-assuredness, but we don't know what it's like to doubt ourselves in a healthy way. We don't know what it's like to be humble. We don't know what it's like to have to relinquish power or control. We don't know what it's like to let our kids make their own choices, or we don't know what it's like to collaborate with other people, and we need to. Don't lament the descent, right? There's a way in which Mars in the sign of the sun will force us to look at relinquishments of power, the descent that is involved with a good life. A good life does mean maybe getting to the top of a mountain, but it also has to do with how gracefully can you descend? Can you hand power over to other people? Can you empower other people? As you grow in success, can you make sure that other people are succeeding? Can you retire gracefully? Can you move into that last third of life in which you're supposed to, ideally in many societies, rest and start thinking about the divine and transitioning out of your body? Or will you just try to work to the very end? These are things that Mars retrograde in Leo can help us to see the value in. It's not wrong to go to the top of a mountain, but do we know how to come back down? Be like the sun at midday. Do not lament the descent. Number 2, heavy is the head that wears the crown. That's what I was just saying. Also, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. I was talking about the sun in the 10th house being a place that people don't always associate with burdens of responsibility, tremendous responsibility that sometimes comes with planets in the 10th house. And you don't think of yourself as someone who, once you achieve something, will have the enormous pressure of maintaining it. I'll never forget, this is just early on in my career. And I made it through my very first year of writing daily horoscopes every day of the year, of the weekdays, right? 5 days a week. And I made it through that whole year of doing the practice consistently. And I was like, so celebrating with Ashley. We went out for dinner and I was like, wow, I made it through a whole year. You know, it was right around the holidays. And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, but you've just told everyone you're going to do it again. And I was like, yeah. So there's, it's funny because, you know, there's, when we aspire to do great things and we accomplish them, we don't always imagine how difficult it will be to maintain what we've built or maintain what we've created, or to bear the responsibility of any. I mean, if you learn a lot about a musical instrument, suddenly you become responsible for the development of students. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, so it's important that we think about Mars retrograde in Leo as questions of how we bear responsibilities for things that are hopefully bigger than ourselves, but also how do we bear responsibility for ourselves? It's not like, one of the things you'll see in so many movies and stories is that it's never the person who wants to be the king or queen in this fairy tale or the story who usually ends up getting chosen. It's the person who doesn't want it, who sees it maybe as a stress, or who just is like, yeah, forget that. That's a lot of drama. And isn't it usually that character that ends up getting placed with the mantle of authority or responsibility? There's something about knowing that there are things that we can't do, that we might not be good at, that we wonder if we'd fail at, that are the living, those are the living credentials, right? That qualify us for amazing things. And as far as I can tell, the people who I've been most attracted to as leaders in my life are people who constantly work the tension of not knowing if they're capable of the things that they're here to do. You know, there's a nice way in which Mars in Leo can knock our confidence down and paradoxically make us better at what we do for it. There's another way in which Mars retrograde in Leo can just help us understand that be careful what we wish for. Be careful for what kind of power, validation, transcendental meaning, or purpose we seek in our lives. In some ways, and this is again something I see as quite universal between great philosophers and mystics all over the world, right? Is that we should be asking, what can I do? How can I serve? Not as much, I know exactly what I should be doing. I mean, some of us may know. Some of us may have a real clear sense of what we're supposed to be doing. But I even find myself as a writer, like these last days of the year, every single calendar year, I go into a reflective space, journaling, going into my internal cave and going like, what am I supposed to do next, this next year? What are some of the things that I'm meant to develop slowly, gradually? I don't think about doing crazy, big, huge changes all the time. I try to keep the rhythm going, keep things familiar, but add things that I think could help, right? I think any of you who are listening who have something you do that you love, whether it's parenting or whether it's your relationship, you have to take these times where you go, how do I meet this sacred responsibility that's come into my life, even if it's small? And what do I do with it now? What's the direction? You're kind of asking, not just asserting constantly, I know what's best. I know what we ought to do. I mean, not that it's wrong to have your own assertive confidence either, but Mars retrograde in Leo, a great time to go, this is hard work. Please guide me, not my will, but thine. That's a great, Mars is like the sword, right? Like, and my sword is in your service, we say to the sun, and the sun could be our higher self. It could be divinity itself. It could be the universe, or it could be a group you belong to, or a relationship, or a particular part of your life that you have a sacred oath or service to. And you say, I am laying my will down and asking for some guidance, not my assertiveness, but something else guiding my will. That's a great prayer to pray during this retrograde. Number 3, real strength means real generosity. I've said this before, maybe a couple weeks ago, but one of the most overwhelmingly beautiful things about the sun, I mean, obviously the sun can burn things up, and like you get too close to it, you're going to die or whatever. But like when we just think about the sun as a benefic experience that we have, we think about it as life-giving. And it shines on everybody and everything. Maybe it comes from the New Testament. I don't remember, the Old Testament somewhere. It's like the sun shines on the good and the bad alike. It's just shining on everything. It's generous. It's unconditionally life-giving. And not that we are meant to be the sun, right? I think we could get into like a little bit of a martyr complex if we went down that path and think to ourselves, I have to give more and more and more, but we're limited in what we can give. But one sign, I think, of a good like solar archetype, whether we're talking about the sun itself or placement of a planet in the sun sign or whatever, even planets in Aries where the sun is exalted, you're thinking about the way in which when power starts filling you, when life and vitality and charisma fill you, when confidence fills you, that you don't just think of it as something that belongs to me. See, the mistake we make, and I do this too, you did something and maybe a good result occurred and you go, yeah, look at me. Like, yeah, look at how great I am. Instead of going, wow, look at how great that was. Look at how great it was that happened. Thank you. And thank you for letting me be part of it. Generosity of spirit means that when we come into contact with something great, that we recognize it as something flowing through us. The soul is like a medium. So when we experience light pouring through us, confidence pouring through us, success pouring through us, we think to ourselves, how do I make sure that other people get some of this? Though maybe I can't give it all away because some of this is filling me with vitality and health, and I need that, right? I need that to, just like plants need light. But I can give some of this. I can redistribute. Plants are smart. When plants grow, a lot of the times what they grow and the way they grow benefits the entire ecosystem around it in all these intricate little ways, not often super pronounced ways that are just obvious. Like, look at that dandelion. He's gifting everyone with millions of dollars, And it's like those little things that plants do. The fruit they provide, the shelter they provide for little bugs that do this and then end up doing that for the cross-pollination later in the year. But on any level, whether it's very small and we're all just little itty bitty beings doing what we can, but when we come into contact with life energy, we think to ourselves, how can I use this? What can I make with this? That shares, that is generous, that spreads light and life, just like the sun spreads light and life. This is the only way that I have consistently found of bringing this principle to play. The main way that I've found of bringing this to play in my practice as an astrologer. Let's make sure astrology is accessible so the light of this divine knowledge can be shared by people no matter what their financial circumstances are, because that's a basic prohibitive factor for many people. Let's bring other astrologers onto the channel and help them build their success. Let's make students successful, right? Let's use astrology in a way that makes lots of people successful. Let's be a place of generosity. You know what? That's why I'm never surprised when the Kickstarter does well, because the spirit of generosity is circular. It works like that. And then what do? We pour it back into all of the things that we do. We build a staff. We give people careers in astrology. We build the success of astrologers. We make astrology accessible for people. And whatever I see as coming into possession of, it goes back. That is a huge part of my life philosophy. And not surprisingly, I was born with my ascendant ruler in Leo, right? That generosity is such a core lesson for Leo. And let me tell you, this is something that did not come easily to me either, because there was a significant portion of my life where I would consider myself to have been significantly more selfish. It was my work, for example, with ayahuasca for many years that really helped me turn a corner and open myself up to how profound generosity is. Now, I could always be a little bit more generous. I'm not a sage. I've not realized anything, but I really do, at my deepest level, this is something that it's a simple thing that I can do, right? But it's the same lesson that we always learn when planets go through Leo. Mars retrograde in Leo, whatever. We'll be dealing with it when Saturn goes into Leo. Watch it then, right? That'll be incredible. But you get the idea. Leo is a sign that says, I need to cultivate and build that sense of solar light just emanating from within me for my own health, for my own vitality and sanity, and for giving a sense of larger purpose to my life. I have to build that solar quality. And if I actually come to be in possession of any of it, then I have to learn a way of being generous with it and redistributing it. Otherwise, I will get high on it. I will develop an ego and it will be my downfall, right? That is like the karmic bind of Leo. And like, I kid you not, you can like predictably tell how Leo transits are going to go if you're not careful to work the edge between what you're doing well with and how you're using what you're doing well with to be of support or generosity for others. This is why the polar opposite sign of Leo is Aquarius, right? That has so much more of an awareness of collectivity. So when Leo's doing well, its awareness of collectivity is raised. Real strength means real generosity. Mars in Leo can be all about, it is one of the most seductive placements for people who are charismatic, but egotistical. Charismatic, in possession of great qualities, admirable, charming, strong, confident, decisive, authoritative, just shining and strong. And yet, if you're egocentric, that pride will be your downfall in the end. That's a Mars retrograde in Leo kind of lesson. So how do we be strong but generous? Strong but knowing that any strength we have does not come from us. We are just humble channels of whatever star power we come in contact with. That's the truth. All right. Real courage comes through real humility. Here's the other thing. It's very paradoxical, but whenever we have real courage to face something, it is usually because we have known the opposite of a tremendous, we've gone through tremendous moments of humbling, of being humbled, of being afraid, of lacking confidence, and real courage somehow rises up despite those things, right? So I think about this example, and I mentioned it in our Roots and Spheres Moon Circle recently for someone who was going through something really intense, and they articulated a fear in front of the group that they had. And I was so blown away because I could tell just how vulnerable and difficult it was for them to vocalize for the first time for themselves. It was very clear this was their first time ever vocalizing this, and for the group, of course, in front of a group. They were vocalizing a fear. I am afraid of this. That's courage, right? That's courage. Why? But it seems like just admitting that you're afraid of something. Yeah, but to even be able to say, I am not strong, I'm a little weak. I am not so confident, I'm a little afraid. And this is what I'm afraid of. That's where courage begins. I remember when I was in the Amazon drinking ayahuasca, and there was a shaman there who said something like this. And I'm just going to paraphrase because I can't remember the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, someone in the group had an experience, and it was not me, it was someone else. They had an experience where they articulated how afraid of something they were. And it was quite clearly a breakthrough for them in the context of the ceremony, right? This is what I'm afraid of. Okay, wow. So the shaman said, as soon as you have the courage to admit what you are afraid of, you will overcome that fear. Spirit will help you. One way or another, you will overcome it because it takes nothing more than the humility to admit that you're afraid. That is the first act and step of courage. And it is the only step required. Spirit will help you do the rest. I thought, wow, this is such an encouraging thing to say. First of all, I was a big fan of it. I was like, yes, like, amen. But I mean, this is a thing with Mars and Leo, is that sometimes we think, I can't do something until I have the strength to do it. People say this all the time with astrology. I can't practice astrology for other people until I'm good enough to do it. No. Most of the time, that's not the case. It's not like you need to know something. You need to do a little, you need to study a little bit and everything like that. But actually, the prerequisite is knowing that you're going in over your head, knowing that you're not ready, knowing that you're afraid, knowing that you don't exactly know what you're going to do, you like that. And that's the prerequisite that I have noticed Spirit acknowledging and supporting time and time again with students of astrology. It's like, I don't feel like I can do this. Go, you're perfectly ready then. It's the ones I worry about are the ones who are like, I am so ready to launch a practice. I just, it's like, no, you're this is like this is divine star power knowledge. You should not feel so confident wielding it, And I'm just teasing, of course, but real courage comes through real humility. It begins there. There's an opportunity for us when Mars is retrograde in Leo to think about just that admission. I lay down the false confidence, I look and get courageous about the things I can't do, that I struggle with, that I can't see, that I don't understand. And just the honesty about those things, the humility required, then the real courage comes in and spirit does the rest. We're so scared to say, I need help. But if we lay down our will as the greatest way to get somewhere, it's amazing how our will paradoxically become so empowered. Number 5, the real self is undefended. A lot of us experience the sign of Leo as something that helps us develop self-confidence, self-esteem. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we human beings, just like, like certain dogs need a purpose, like give them a job. You've heard that before with dogs. Humans are like that too. It's like, give us a job. Like, what are we here to do? How many people come into my astrology client practice and say, what am I here to do? Leo helps us with that. Leo is a great sign for helping us develop a sense of purpose and meaning, because that is in many ways the job of the sun. But here's the thing, is that one of the most beautiful things that happen when we take up a real purpose, we get really passionate about it. We feel like it's our calling. We take it as far as we can go. Eventually we have to lay it down. So that was a purpose. Maybe that was the purpose of this lifetime. But eventually purposes, they fade. I think about my grandma. She was living with dementia the last couple of years of her life. And her sense of self that was so invested in what she had done with her lifetime, right? The purpose, the sun, what I had done with this lifetime, what I did. It was gone. And she felt no need to identify herself with purpose any longer. There's a real way in which Leo will give us purpose, and it will also just keep on calling to us. And my dear child, you are valuable and loved and beautiful, long before you ever had a purpose, and long after you ever have fulfilled a purpose. And I think about that with my kids. I look at my kids and I'm like, you're going to start getting to a point where you're going to feel like you have to find a purpose, and you will, and it'll be amazing. And just know that the parent, which I think of as the gods, the goddesses, the universe, our higher self, they have always seen you as desirable and beautiful, before you ever had a purpose. Purposes rise and they set like the sun. And the real self does not need to defend its right to be here because of its purpose. In some ways, the most relieving thing that we could ever say about existence itself, and I know for some people it's just almost offensive to hear this, but there is no purpose. There are many. Purposes are like features of a reality that itself is beyond purpose. It's deeper than purpose. It's realer than purpose. Okay, we'll leave it there. I had no idea this would be such a long video today, but we'll let the inspiration just take hold. So after I sign off, I hope that you will enjoy hearing about some of the rewards that are available when you donate and support this channel. I so appreciate everybody pitching in and supporting it. This is how I support myself, my family, my staff, all of the flexible pricing we offer, the mission of the spirit of generosity I spoke about today. It runs through Nightlight also because of the generosity of all of you supporting me and supporting us as a team and everything we do. So I really do appreciate all of you, and I hope you'll find some cool stuff to pick up when you support the channel as well. All right, have a great day, everyone. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm going to tell you about the different rewards that we offer when you donate and support our channel in the year ahead. So you'll find a link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, in the comments section of this video, as well as on our website, nightlightastrology.com. If you head over there, you'll see at the top of the page there is a menu item that says Kickstarter 2025. You can click on that and be taken over to the Kickstarter campaign page. So once you're there, if you scroll down on the right-hand side, you're going to see different pledge levels and different gifts and sales that we run as a way of saying thank you for your support. So among those, our most popular offering by far are the major discounts that we offer on our training programs. So if you are interested in studying astrology at Nightlight in 2025, whether you're a brand new student or a currently enrolled student who's thinking of taking one of our year 2, 3 horary programs, you're going to find that these are the best rates that we run on the entire year. And we do this as a way of both saying thank you and also of helping us raise funds to support the channel, our staff, and everything we do. So you'll see attend one Nightlight course there. That's about 50% off the total cost of the program and about $500 off the early bird rate. And then you'll scroll down and you'll see that if you bundle 2 courses together, the savings go way up. Bundle 3, they go up even more. I mean, the difference between the 2 and 3 class package is $200. So $200 more, you get 3 of our year-long programs. And if you get all the way to the 4 class pass, then you have all 4 years of our program. You can take them at any pace you like, renew them whenever you like. There's no timeline on when you use these class passes. And you will have all 4 years of content at about 75% off each of the programs individually when you get that bundle. So those are our best savings for sure. Highly recommend those. If you have any questions about our courses or programs, email us info@nightlightastrology.com or look at the website under the courses page. You'll find information about each of the individual courses we offer. And then if you scroll up, you're going to find some of our other programs that are greatly discounted. Ashley's Herbal Foundations apprenticeship course, which many people are interested in who come through our Moon Circle that Ashley and I lead each month. You scroll up, you're going to find our masterclass series for 2025, greatly discounted, as well as our Roots and Spheres Moon Circle, greatly discounted. There's hundreds of dollars of savings in each of those. So we really try to make sure that the Kickstarter acts as a good flash sale for all of our programs. You'll then find some really nice prices on previous archive talks, like our 2024 archive masterclass bundle, which is about 30 hours worth of content on specialized topics in astrology. You can see the topics listed in each of the bundles as you scroll through. 2023's masterclass bundle, huge savings on those and a lot of really great content. You'll see a few reading options as you continue to go from the bottom to the top. You'll see the 2025 year ahead mini reading. There's only 30 of these. These are individualized birth chart readings that I do, looking at the most significant transit in your birth chart for 2025. I record those personally. You'll then see that there is an Ask 3 Horary Questions option where you can get 3 horary questions to redeem whenever you'd like within the year ahead. Those are kind of yes, no predictive questions. Will I get the job? Will we get together? Things like that. Then you'll see the Astrology for Complete Beginners course is also discounted through the Kickstarter. This is a great 10 hours worth of content for people who are brand new to astrology. So whether that's you or maybe a gift for somebody else. And then you're going to see some individual master classes that are greatly discounted from the past year. So all of 2024's masterclass series are the archives of which 8 to 10 hours each are on sale. And then scroll up a little bit more and you'll see one of our most popular offerings, which are the year ahead horoscope readings. These year ahead horoscope readings include 30 to 45 minutes of a breakdown of all the major transits of the year ahead for each sun and rising signs. You get all of them with this package, which is a great deal. It's like 10 hours worth of content, 8, 9, 10 hours, somewhere in there. I haven't finished recording all of them yet. So as of the time I'm recording this, I'm anticipating it'll land around 10 hours. But yeah, anyway, so you scroll up, you'll see those horoscope videos will all be delivered to you right around January 1st when the Kickstarter ends. Scroll up a little bit more, you'll find The Oracle Speaks, which is my book, and this is being released chapter by chapter. It is a book about the inner experience of learning to speak with oracles, and it is being released chapter by chapter in both text and audiobook form, so you can listen along to my new book. And that takes us up to the Astrology of 2025 video. This, for your donation at the $50 level, gives you an exclusive talk breaking down all of the major astrological transits of 2025. I look in depth at some of the biggest things happening in the year ahead and break them down in advance. And that's the only place I release that video or that take on the whole year ahead. Finally, at the very top, the most basic level of donation, you'll see the Astrology of 2025 calendar. This is a PDF calendar we design and make that allows you to track and move along with the astrology as the year unfolds. This is also great if you want to track what we're going to be talking about week by week on my channel. You'll get a glimpse at the biggest transits of each day and month and week. And that will give you some sense of where we're heading with our coverage of the astrology on the channel as the year unfolds. So again, any questions about any of the rewards that you see, email us info@nightlightastrology. Link is in the description, comments, or on the website, nightlightastrology.com. Help us get to 1,937 backers by January 1st. We deeply appreciate your contribution. We try to make sure we have some really special rewards to say thank you when you contribute. All right, take it easy. Bye.